Yeah, let me just let everybody else in, and about 5 seconds we're ready to go.
We got the YouTube going, Brian?
Yeah, I'm starting it right now. Just waiting for confirmation. Okay, we're up.
Okay, thanks. Welcome, everybody, and let's reconvene the public section. We're 4 weeks now, 5 weeks in. We're still doing great. A big shout out always goes to the teachers and the BTA and the administrators. And specifically, I'd like to just say thank you to all the parents and the students who are keeping our school clean and healthy. As we go into the winter months, I think it becomes more important that we watch out for each other. And I happened to see an email that came out from Ann Myers today about the importance of, if you've got the sniffles, if you're coughing, please take advantage of the remote learning. That will keep our students and our teachers and our administrators safe. So with that, I am going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the September 17th meeting.
So moved.
I got a sec, John and Tom Evans. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Roy, to you.
Aye.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to us. I'm not quite sure how many more remote meetings we're going to be having. The executive order runs out in November. We'll see if it gets extended or not. But one of these days, I know we'll be back in person, which will be a nice thing to do. But I just want to reiterate what Arlene said, and so far so good. I can tell you that the kids have been absolutely wonderful throughout this entire pandemic and been very cooperative with us and getting used to wearing the masks and doing what they need to do to learn and be in school. I think they appreciate being there, and I know we appreciate having them there. So we want to continue to do everything within our power to keep our schools open. And I would just like to, again, express that if your child is not feeling well, please keep them home. I know it can be disruptive when you check that you have a few symptoms and you have to get a COVID test to bring them back or a doctor's note, but it really is a community effort. And I think it's because we've received the cooperation of everybody that we've been open the entire time. And it really is going to take all of us to work together to remain open. You see around us schools that are not fully open yet or in a hybrid model, having half the kids they've had to shut down here and there because of various cases. And so, you know, I just think we're very fortunate, and I'd like to get everyone's cooperation so we can continue down that path. Related to that, one of the questions that I get very frequently is, how many cases, positive cases, would it have to be for us to shut down our school? And there's no easy answer to that. I know some schools, they say, well, if we get 2 cases, we might shut down, things like that. But there's really no easy answer to that because it really depends. It depends on the contact tracing, the extent of the exposure of those positive cases, et cetera. So for example, if we receive news that we have a positive case, we immediately call the health department and immediately start contact tracing. During that time, what we would do most likely, and other schools have done as well, is close for an initial period, 24 hours, 48 hours, as that contact tracing starts. Once we determine the extent of the exposure, we'd make a decision from there. If we get, for example, 2 cases in the high school, there's a good chance we'd have to close for a longer period of time because of the high school model. You know, kids are changing classes, they're involved in athletics together. There's more of a chance of people mixing up, and there's more of a chance of a wider exposure. At the elementary school and in the middle school, to an extent, we use more of a pod learning system. So there's a good chance that we contain that exposure and may not necessarily have to close down for either a long period of time or even the entire school. And then the question is, okay, what if we get a case in the high school? Does that mean we have to close the elementary school? And it doesn't mean that. Again, it really depends, and depends on siblings and wider exposures and things of that nature. So I'd like to have, an exact formula that I could give you saying, okay, we've reached our 3 cases, we have to close, but it's not as easy as that. It involves a lot more variables, which is why we really are keeping track of every student who's either checked yes on the questionnaire or is out without an explanation. We follow it up. We follow it up with the testing that results that come in. We really want to make sure we have a good handle on where everybody is and who they've had contacts with, so we can make the right decision moving forward. So again, we hope it doesn't come to that, but if it does, we'll be ready. And that's the whole purpose of this year, is to be flexible, right? We have to remain flexible. We have to be able to go to a remote learning environment if necessary, without any loss of instructional time. I think we're well prepared to do that, but I'm hoping we never have to test it. So I guess that's enough of that. But again, thank you for the cooperation you've given us so far. And I would just encourage you to please continue to cooperate with us, whether it's during school days or even on the weekends. Please, please, please have your children wear masks when they're outside. Adhere to social distancing guidelines. Do what they can, do what you can to try to keep us all safe. That would be really appreciated. I want to just do a quick shout out to Joe Haven and the athletic department. I think the athletics are off to a pretty good start. Really well done. And what's been really nice, and thanks to the foundation as well, because they sponsored the local live grant that provides the opportunity for people to watch games from their desktop or wherever they are. I know I tuned in on Saturday and it was terrific. I actually heard the announcer, whoever that might be, who was really, I think he's got a bone up on some of the soccer terms, but I can't wait for other seasons. But thank you, Mr. Kern. You sounded great, and I appreciate you doing that for us.
The thing about soccer is evidently there are no rules.
I was impressed you called it a pitch, though. I did hear that. Not a football field. So, but anyway, if you haven't had a chance to tune into the games via local live, please take that opportunity if you can't get to the games, because it's working well. And Joe, I think we're getting the Hayes camera up soon as well. Is that correct? Yeah. So that'll be up. So we'll be able to televise those games that are on Hayes Field as well. So take that opportunity and check us out. It's been pretty good. I know they've had senior days this past. We got those done early this year in the event that the season got canceled for any reason. And I think they went very, very well. So Mr. Haven, welcome and thank you. And you're fitting in well. So keep it going. We do have a foundation meeting on Monday coming up. That's going to be actually an in-person meeting. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody from the foundation. Not everybody may be there. Some will be done via Zooming, but we're hoping to get a good turnout there live. And the last thing I'll mention, I think we did cancel the meeting that was originally scheduled for November 2nd. We did take that off the agenda this year. So our next meeting will be their next regularly scheduled meeting. So with that, I am done with my report, Arlene.
Okay, and you're also Dr. Kelly.
Oh, that's right.
Tonight.
I am Dr. Kelly tonight as well. Forgot about that. So yes. So on the personnel side, there are a number of resolutions we're asking the board to consider tonight. They involved approving some FMLA leaves for a couple of teachers, and we also have a number of overages that are on the list as well for consideration. We do have a leave replacement teacher that we wish to hire in the area of phys ed, along with a couple of side letters with the BTA. There's an approved revised fall coaches roster as well, and we do have some co-curricular advisors to approve. Most of those clubs will be done remotely for now. I know the high school, to confuse the kids even more, are going to an X period soon so we can meet with our club and get those club activities going. So you see that on your list as well. But it just means that things are returning more and more to normal when I see lists like this. So it's a good thing. but I am asking for the board to consider personnel motions A through S.
Okay, A through S. Do we have a motion to consider?
Move.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Okay, hearing none.
Jen, was that Jen second?
Yes.
Okay.
Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Connie, we're good.
Okay, I did Rachel proud. Thank you.
You did, I'll let her know. Thank you. And Mr. Carlin,
Yes. This is the meeting where we usually have a few audit presentations, but they've been kind of punted to the next meeting because of pretty much COVID delays across the state with getting these things done remotely. So we'll probably schedule an audit committee meeting for, I think, the second week in November, because I think the board meets the third week in November, so that's what we're targeting. And the board is in possession of the August 31st preliminary financial report, wherein I'm still reflecting a deficit. If somebody can tell me what's going to happen with our state aid, I'd be really happy. First, they told us they were going to cut it 20%. And then in September, they said, well, we're not going to cut the first payment 20%, but we haven't received, as of August, we haven't received any payments yet. But we're conservatively projecting a 20% decline in our state aid revenues. And then I'm also worried about on the expenditure side, and I'll get a better handle on it once I get the month of October, which is our first full month with everybody in here. Some of the contractual services, such as security and specifically cleaning, where those are going to come in, and then some BOCES, all these Zoom licenses were not planned for when we did the budget last year. So, there's going to be some pressures on the expenditure side to the point where I think it was 2009 the last time we had to really put on a break in spending by Christmas. And we may be looking to do that again, depending how things come in. But, we don't rely on state aid like a lot of other districts do. So I'm hoping not to have to go to some kind of emergency supplemental appropriation or something like that. But once I figure that out, the board will be the first to know.
so Dan, so I've not heard you use the term supplemental emergency appropriation. Do you want to run that one by us?
Well, if the board, I think we'd have to check with the attorneys, but I think there might be some kind of emergency legislation where we can go to fund balance to make up any difference. The primary rule is you don't overspend your budget. If revenues come up short, so be it. But if you can't overspend your budget. So that's really what I'm looking towards is the expenditure side.
So Dan, because we have talked in the past that we have various funds with dollars in them that
Sure.
could be available to us. So is what you're talking about the mechanism that we would need in order to use those funds like we've discussed?
Exactly.
Okay.
But I'm optimistic that we can handle the revenues within our current appropriation. Expenditures are a different story. Interest expense. When we planned this, we were getting 2.25%. Then COVID hit and the Fed went back down to 0, and now we're getting, interest is trickling in again. We're doing well with tuition students. We haven't received county sales tax yet. We get 4 quarterly payments. It'll be interesting to see how the first quarterly payment comes in.
Yeah, that was the other one we were watching carefully.
Yeah. So, with keeping a close eye on it this year, on basically everything.
So Dan, how long of a lead time do you think you'll have to tell the board if you think you need to take some really defensive actions?
I would say probably by the next meeting.
So November becomes critical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Dan, the state aid, when they gave the governor the ability to kind of claw back the 20%, I think they gave him 4 dates.
Mhm.
And the first one, I think, was as early as April. Do you know what the last date is that he has that he can do this? Do you remember what the 4 dates were?
I don't remember offhand, Mike.
Because at some point he's got to make a decision, I think, because he's got the 4 dates that he can do it on, and I thought they were front end loaded to help school districts kind of plan.
I know they were, and then September was one of those dates, and he didn't do it at that point.
Okay.
So, well, I'll
He's going to do whatever he wants to do.
And a lot may
Here's a
depend-
newsflash for you. He's going to do whatever he wants to do. There's no legislature in session to call him on anything.
Well, I think when they wrote it, Tom, they gave him the 4 dates. I understand what you're saying, but I think they were trying to, at least put some parameters around it to help the school districts. If you
But he's
abide by
blown
it.
off one of those dates already.
What's that?
He's blown off the September date already, is my understanding. So, I mean, I know it's not very, I'm being very cynical.
Yeah.
But any reliance on any date by which he, quote, has to, close quote, do anything, there's nobody requiring him to do anything because there's nobody home. The courts aren't even open fully. So if school districts wanted to sue to get relief, that in and of itself is a challenge.
The districts that are highly dependent on school aid get most of it at the end of the spring in the new fiscal year.
Yep. And we do as well, Jack.
But it's a small fraction of our budget.
Sure, sure. And there's districts that are heavily reliant on state aid, 40, 50, 60% of their budget could be state aid. They've already laid people off.
Yes. Yes.
In times like this, thanks to the community that we live in and how they support our budget every year, we haven't had to go that route yet. But it's all bets are off if we see another COVID spike and the governor carries through with a 20% cut, and we still have to live with a tax cap.
Yep.
And that brings us into which we're starting up later this month in early November into starting the process for next year's budget, which will be very interesting this year.
Yes, it will. Okay, any other questions on the finances for today? Understanding that next 30 days is going to be important to us.
And the debt service fund in August it went up. It looks like it doubled from previous reports. Is that because of the?
Yeah, it's the premiums. Yeah, the premiums on the bonds, John.
Okay,
Most of that is committed to paying down those bonds over the long term.
Thanks.
So that's doom and gloom, and I think more positivity is, and there's no financial action items tonight, but when we talk about facilities, we can be a little more positive. Most of the project is down to punch list, with the third floor addition and the Learning Commons and the Innovation Center and the nurses suite and even the curtain wall replacement. Supposedly we're supposed to be getting facade stone and windows very shortly, and we'll be taking out the temporary windows and putting in the permanent windows, 1 or 2 classes at a time on a second shift. Now that we've taken the crews off of the curtain wall for a month and back to the Meadow Avenue addition, you're seeing a lot of progress there, and you can really get an idea of the space that lobby is going to be, and it's really going to be stunning, I think. And the counseling center's taking shape. I expect them to be watertight within a week or 2 or 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know. But once they get watertight, then it should go quick inside.
So Dan, if I could just maybe pull us back really quickly to the doom and gloom comment, but I just to recap for everybody, I appreciate the time that you and your team and Roy and everybody has put in to identify all the risks, because there are a lot we are dealing with, is what is the word we use, the unprecedented times, right? So there is a lot of risk. But I also acknowledge the work that we've all done to make sure that we understand how to mitigate those risks.
Sure. And we're in great financial position to weather that storm as well.
Right, exactly. We are in great financial position. We just don't want to put ourselves as a board into a lesser financial position.
Sure.
And so I think the next 30 days is we just get a little bit of clarity, even if it's murky clarity, is important to us. But I don't want to send I want to send the message that we are understanding the risks. We understand what levers we can pull, and we're trying to be smart today so we don't pay the price later on.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I
No
mean,
financial.
You mentioned pulling levers. If the fact is, if the Republicans maintain control of the Senate, New York State's not being bailed out, and New York State has no money. New York State's broke. It was broke before the pandemic. So we can't print money. So a lot is riding on the results across the country in this coming election. I would urge that we maintain whatever flexibility we're able to maintain, because this could be a really long-term problem.
Okay, so no motions for you, Dan. So we move
No.
on to policy review. Roy, back to you.
Okay, thank you. So we have one policy up for just a first read, and that has to do with the Title I parent and family engagement. Mara has been working on this. I don't know, Mara, if you have any comments on this and why it's on the agenda now?
Sure. We receive a small Title I allocation every year. It's somewhere between around $33,000. And as part of that, using that funds, which we generally use for professional development for our faculty, I engaged in an audit this fall with a member of the New York State Department of Education. They suggested we update our parent and family engagement policy, which is why you are going through some readings of it. Basically ensures that we are creating, opportunities for parents to communicate with their child's teacher, that they understand New York State standards and are informed of their children's progress, and how to interpret that. It also indicates that the funds should be used in ways to support students who are achieving at levels 1 or 2 below proficiency levels. And as I said, we largely use that for professional development, which is decided through our professional development committee, which includes parents. So a lot of the policy has to do with involving parents in those decisions and continually informing the community on the kind of instruction we're providing and ways to support their children at home.
Thank you, Mara. So it's just asking the board to pass a resolution that have it up for a first read. That's all.
I have a motion then?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, may I have a show of hands for those who support? Any noes? Okay, Connie, you have a motion passed.
Got it.
Committee reports. Has there been any committee meetings since we were together last? Not to my knowledge.
No, Dan mentioned the audit committee is coming up, so we'll take care of that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. We have our next meeting coming up on the 19th. So with that, shall we give everybody a heads up? We'll be going into public discussion. So if you have a question, get yourself signed in, and we'll kind of take a 30-second pause just to see any questions are coming through. Or Connie, are there any in the channel right now?
Nothing yet.
Okay. Roy, I think it's been fairly widely publicized, the fact that the school is going to be used as a polling place on the 3rd. So you'll have a remote
Yes.
day of learning?
We will, and thanks for putting it out there, reminding everybody that yes, we will be fully remote on November 3rd because of Election Day. People will be using in our school for polling. We don't want to expose our children or staff to people from the outside. It's contained to the gym, so we'll have an opportunity to really clean it out pretty good before the next school day. So I think this is the best course of action for us, trying again just to minimize exposure with everyone.
Okay. Connie, any
Nothing.
action?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Uh,
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Note the
Thank you,
time,
everybody.
John Atkinson. Oh, we already signed off.